Are you having a good time? Thank you. I know you've been thanked many times, from coming through the door, being offered food and drink, and every employee and board member has made their way to you to say thank you. But I'm from the South. I want to say thank you one more time. Thank you so much. It is so important, the support that you have given us and continue to give to us, that allows us to work with families in our communities, no matter where they come to us, what stage in life they're in. Your support and your volunteerism, your donations, your time allows us to greet them where they are, help them with what they need, help them to identify ways to help themselves, and we move them on into the journey of being thriving members of the community. And your donations, your time, make that happen. From the early childhood education to early intervention to the workforce development, our program is providing holistic, integrated supports that we believe that can break the intergenerational cycles of poverty, and that's something we believe in heavily. Mental health is a key driver across all of our programs, and especially for programs that you will hear about in a few minutes. The first is our Healthy Families program. It is our 2-generational program that seeks to prevent child abuse and neglect by working with first-time mothers to promote positive, nurturing, and responsive parenting. The second program you're going to hear about is sort of what happens when this doesn't happen in the beginning. It is our therapeutic foster care program. In this program, our service providers recruit, certify, train, and provide ongoing support for families that lovingly open their homes to care for children for whom at that time, and for many reasons, their home is not a safe place to be. I'd like to introduce you first to Bianca with Healthy Families. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bianca Molinari Añez, and I have the privilege of working as a bilingual mental health counselor in NVFS Healthy Families program. If there is one thing that you should know about me, is that I absolutely love my work. That might surprise you when I tell you that my job is counseling mothers who are experiencing postpartum depression. That might not sound like the most uplifting work, yet sharing my personal story might help you understand why I do what I do. I had just turned 30 years old when I learned I was pregnant with my first child. I had always wanted to be a mom, and I was so excited about being pregnant. I loved being pregnant. Bringing out our baby home was a special time, but it was definitely not what I was expecting. Of course, there were challenges like sleep deprivation, and I had a colicky baby, but there was something else. I started to feel isolated. I was sad, and even though I knew that my son was a blessing, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I felt guilty about not being able to provide what my son needed. I felt guilty about not being happy all the time. I felt guilty about feeling guilty. But thank God for my husband, Alejandro, who helped me receive the mental health support that I needed. I had postpartum depression. Talking to a mental health professional literally brought sanity back to my life. My experience with postpartum depression made me learn that it was okay not to be okay. Little did I know that those difficult times would change my life in positive ways. I've always wanted to be a counselor and help people. And having postpartum depression provided a roadmap for how to do that. I got a master's degree in professional counseling, and I discovered my passion in working with underserved populations. Depression is an equal opportunity disease, and it can strike when you least expect it. That was certainly true for me, and that is certainly true for the women in our community. At NVFS, I work with mothers with postpartum depression. Many of them, like me, are from Latin America. I also have clients from the US, from Africa and Asia. They might be survivors of domestic abuse or community violence. Imagine now being in a new country, not speaking the language, without a support system, and add a new baby and depression to the mix, to those already existing feelings of isolation. And only then you can begin to understand how truly debilitating postpartum depression is for my clients. I think about my client Marta, who was depressed and on her own. She developed panic attacks. She didn't have any confidence. She didn't know basic things like not letting her baby sleep on her stomach, or that grapes could be a choking hazard. Today, she's become more tranquil and motivated. While the voice in her head used to say, Marta, you cannot do this, it now says, yes, you can. And I keep telling her, if you feel like you're falling, it's okay. But it is important to get back up. I still remember the days when the voice in my head used to tell me, Bianca, you cannot do this. When I couldn't get out of bed, when I couldn't stop crying, when I couldn't take care of my son without taking care of myself first. I still get very emotional thinking about this. But 9 years later, those emotions are overshadowed by those of my clients who tell me how much strength they get from me. They tell me they wouldn't be able to get out of bed or take care of their children without my help. The women I work with who face more hardships than I will ever know, they tell me that I am their role model, but only if they knew they are my role models, my source of strength and my hope for the future. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to share my experience as a Northern Virginia Family Service foster parent. Many people have an incomplete understanding of foster care. Foster parents act as full-time caregivers until a child or children return to their parents or relatives, or a permanent plan is made. Foster parents work as part of a team to assist children in reaching their behavioral, emotional, developmental, or medical goals. That's the textbook definition. Now let me give you a glimpse into what it's really like. Being a foster parent is a painful, joyful, devastating, rewarding experience. To use a cliche, it's a roller coaster. I've never experienced anything else in my life that can be so continually heartbreaking and heartwarming all at the same time. I feel people often wonder, why would you want to take in kids who have experienced neglect and trauma, who come with lots of problems, who are quote unquote difficult, especially when you have 3 children of your own. What started as a wish of our youngest child, who was 5 at the time, desiring to have a younger sibling, has since become a passion for our entire family. If anything, our children are better people for being a part of a foster family. It's allowed us all to step out of our comfort zones and have a front row seat to the struggles of others in our community. The opioid epidemic is no longer something we read about in the paper. It's as real as the kids who come to us from families dealing with this and other forms of addiction, abuse, or homelessness. Most of our foster children have experienced some form of trauma and toxic stress. These children who have experienced so much disruption and disappointment in their lives, we feel it along with them. Every time meetings with their parents are canceled, every time they change schools and struggle to adapt. I feel angry and sad when I think about what these kids have had to endure. But their families are more than a sad story that make me angry. They are people I have come to know and care about and pray for. Many of them are simply repeating the patterns they experienced as children. We learned that one of our children would hide the car keys to prevent her alcoholic parents from driving. She kept a secret stash of money to pay for taxis when she didn't want to get in the car with them. One night during an argument, Dad pushed Mom down a flight of stairs. Who called 911? The child. I should note that she was in elementary school at the time. The mom went to the emergency room, Dad went to jail, and the child came to live with us. We foster children who are chronically homeless, going to school in dirty clothes without underwear or socks. One foster child came from a home whose family were hoarders, and the house was deemed a fire hazard. Another was being raised by a single mother who prostituted herself and partied all night. I so badly want to change the tapes that play over and over again in these kids' heads, the tape that tells them that they are unworthy and make them blind to their incredible value. As foster parents, we are not there to be the judge or the social workers or lawyers. We don't make decisions about their future. Our job is to provide a stable and safe home and love the children with all of our hearts. Reflecting on the past 8 years, the twin toddlers were among the kids who had the greatest impact on our family. Yes, we were foster parents to 15-month-old twins for a little over a year. They stayed up all night. They sucked the life out of us. I can't bear thinking about what they may have seen in their short lives. Yet as exhausting as the twins were, we were in such mourning when they left. Goodbye is hard. That will be true once again when we say goodbye to the 3 foster children currently living with us. A 2-month-old, a 17-month-old, and a 17-year-old. From the outside, I know my life looks a little crazy, and it is sometimes. I must confess, every time the phone rings about a new placement, my first reaction is to hyperventilate. But it's also true that our foster children, from the babies to the teenagers, have enriched our lives in ways I never could have imagined. As hard as it is, we are not alone. Northern Virginia Family Services extraordinary staff has been on this journey along with us, providing a constant sounding board and invaluable resources. If we are the safety net for our foster kids, Northern Virginia Family Services is our safety net. Looking back, our foster children have driven me to near insanity and pushed me to my very depths, yet they are the beat of my heart, the pulse in my veins, and the energy in my soul. They are my kids. Thank you.